Welcome back to These Things Are Written on this Monday. And as we begin on this very cold Monday, we are looking at Genesis chapter 31. So far, we have read of Jacob and how Laban tricked him into marrying Leah before Rachel. And also of how Jacob, in a way, tricked Laban into quite a bit of his flock. We'll learn a little bit more about this. Again, we're not going to be able to look at the whole chapter. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing today. So I do encourage you to read it beforehand or after. There's a lot more that I'm not discussing. I might mention it a little bit, but we'll go from there. Let's start by reading, beginning with verse 1. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father's he has gained all this wealth. And Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where the flock was, and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before. But the God of my fathers has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he said, the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. In the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes, and I saw in a dream that the goats that mated with the flock were striped, spotted, and mottled. Then the angel of the Lord said to me in a dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, lift up your eyes and see, all the goats that mate with the flock are striped, spotted, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise, go from this land, and return to the land of your kindred. We're going to stop there just for a little bit to kind of examine this and what's going on. Remember, Laban was Jacob's father-in-law. And as he worked for Laban, first for the ability to marry Rachel, he was tricked and ended up having to marry Leah instead. And then another 7 years to marry Rachel. He had 12 sons, or 11 sons so far. And in the last part of the chapter that we did not read, he worked another 6 to 7 years in order to earn the flocks. And while it sounded like a little bit of a superstition of how he was able to select the flocks and make them either striped or spotted or mottled, whatever, we see now that it was God at work providing for Jacob and for his family. So let's continue now with verse 17. One part that I left out a little bit, and we're not going to talk much about it, was Rachel stealing the gods of Laban. Now, as we've talked, for the most part, it seems like Laban was a follower of the one true God, but yet, as with many people at that time, they worshiped Yahweh, but also other household gods, so to speak. Rachel took one of them, not known to Jacob, and that comes back to haunt her later. Let's pick up from verse 17. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. He drove away all the livestock, all his property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Padam Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. And Jacob tricked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he intended to flee. Again, we hear of Rachel stealing that household god here, and of how, in many ways, Jacob was tricking Laban as well, by not telling him that he was leaving. And when, instead of discussing this, Jacob seemed to take matters into his own hands. Instead of doing what's right, if you have a disagreement, we know what we're supposed to do, right? Bring it to that person, to discuss it with that person. Instead, he simply left with his flocks, with his wives, which were Laban's daughters, and with Laban's grandchildren. Understandably, he might be upset, don't you think? So let's continue with verse 51. Leading up to this point, Laban has caught up to Jacob. He had taken his men, but God appeared to Laban in a dream. As God appeared to Laban in a dream, then Laban was told not to harm Jacob. As they met, they discussed, he searched for that household idol. Rachel had it hidden. I'll let you read about that. Again, not the best thing in this whole passage. Kind of disturbing that they worshiped false gods. But let's move to chapter 51. After Jacob, right before this, Jacob and Laban had a heap and a pillar set up there to set their agreement, their covenant they made with one another. Continue with verse 51. Then Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap and the pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me, to do harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their fathers, judge between us." So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. They ate bread and spent the night in the hill country. In the end, all things seem to work out well. There has been resolution between Laban and Jacob. They're leaving on good terms. They have this agreement that they will not bring harm to the other in any way. They swore to God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of the father, as the judge. And as we look at this a little bit more, we see that Jacob swore. In the ESV, it says, by the fear of his father Isaac. The fear of the Lord, we say, is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord, really, he's focusing on the Lord and the respectful fear that we are to have of God because of his great power. We're going to continue, and in the next time, we'll see Jacob and his family returning to Canaan and to Esau, the one that Jacob had hurt. We'll look at that tomorrow, and then continuing on to see this family and, in many ways, the struggles that they had to continue.